We often think our days will just, unfold predictably. Same routines. But sometimes that feeling of normal just shatters.
Yeah, and February 2024 in Moran, Iowa was definitely one of those times.
Right. We're talking about 20-year-old Melody Hoffman. Everyone said she was cheerful, very trusting, close to her family, especially her mom.
But it turns out she had some secrets.
So let's paint the picture. Saturday, February 17th, 2024. It sounds completely ordinary.
Totally. Melody and her mom, Megan, they sleep in a bit, go grocery shopping, tacos for lunch.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, dinner at home. Then they watch a movie together in Megan's bed until about 11 o'clock at night. Just a normal mother-daughter evening.
Until it wasn't. Around 11:30 p.m., that's when the first hint of trouble appears.
Right. Melody slips out of the house, doesn't say anything to her mom.
And gets into a car.
A blue Honda Accord. That's the first real deviation from the norm. The first sign something's up.
Okay. And her mom, Megan, she actually had a way to track Melody's phone, didn't she?
Yeah, the Live 360 app. It's one of those family locator things. She got a notification at 11:27 p.m. that Melody had left the house.
Wow, almost instantly.
Pretty much. And there was more. They had a living room camera.
Ooh.
Yeah. And the footage actually shows Melody leaving just after that notification. And interestingly, her phone screen flashes like she just got a message or maybe a call.
From who, though?
Unknown sender. That's the unsettling part.
So Megan sees the notification, maybe checks the camera later, but she starts texting Melody straight away, right? She must have been worried.
Oh, absolutely. Her texts show that rising panic. Things like, "Are you kidding me right now?" and "I'll be back."
And Melody replied.
Initially, yes, with text trying to sound reassuring, "I'll be back soon," that sort of thing. But, well, we now know those assurances were false.
So the deception started pretty much immediately. Megan's tracking the phone, though, with the app. Where did it show Melody going?
Okay, so the app shows the phone moving northwest, out towards a place called Morgan Creek Park.
Morgan Creek Park, okay.
Then the path reverses, heading back towards Moran. Around 1 a.m., it pings briefly near an apartment complex, actually pretty close to their home.
Close to home. That's strange.
It is. And then the crucial thing happens. The location permissions on the phone get disabled.
So no more tracking.
Exactly. That's a huge red flag right there. Someone actively stopped the tracking.
So Megan can't see the location anymore? What does she do?
She switches to Snapchat, starts messaging Melody, trying to get her to turn the location back on. Pleading, really.
Like what kind of messages?
Things like "on my way" and "almost there, leave the door open for me," trying to act like Melody's expected back any second, maybe to coax her into sharing her location again.
Did it work?
Well, Melody or whoever had the phone did reply. But here's where it gets really chilling in retrospect.
How so?
The replies started getting delayed, and the style changed. They became weirdly formal, kind of elaborate, not like how Melody usually texted her mom at all.
More formal. Like not using slang or abbreviations.
Exactly. It was subtle, and Megan didn't really register it in the moment, understandably. But it was a sign. Plus, Megan tried calling, and the calls just went unanswered.
Oh, man. So the terrible realization later was that Megan was probably texting with
your daughter's killer.
Yeah.
Trying to sound like Melody? Keeping up the pretense?
That's horrifying.
That's it.
What happened next? How did she find out something was seriously wrong?
The next communication wasn't from Melody or whoever was pretending to be her. It was an automatic alert.
Automatic?
Yeah, from the Apple iPhone itself. An emergency impact service alert. It came through at 3:13 a.m.
An impact alert, like from a car crash.
Potentially, or in any significant impact, the system automatically sends the phone's location to emergency contacts.
So it sent a location.
It did. And
Yeah.
you can just imagine the sheer terror Megan must have felt getting that alert in the middle of the night.
So she went there to that location.
Immediately. Drove right there. It was
Yeah.
an entry ramp onto Highway 100.
Is Melody there?
No. Just her iPhone. Broken. Face down on the pavement. The case was missing.
Broken. And the location had been turned off earlier.
Right. And when Megan looked at the phone, all the recent activity calls, texts, location history, it had all been deleted. Wiped clean.
So a broken, wiped phone on a highway ramp, that's ominous.
Extremely. It points to violence and a clear attempt to cover tracks.
The actual discovery of Melody, though, that happened the next morning.
Yes, the next morning. Further south, actually.
Okay.
A place called Lily Lake in Amana. It's about a half-hour drive from Moran.
Who found her?
A woman named Amy Robus. She was out birdwatching. Apparently another couple had seen the body just moments before, but were, understandably, too upset and unsure what to do immediately.
So Amy called 911. What did she report?
It's pretty grim. She told the dispatcher she'd found a woman's body near the picnic pavilion. The woman was wearing only underwear, lying face down.
Face down, not in the water, though.
No, Amy was clear about that. Didn't look like she'd been in the lake. But then she described these marks. She said all kinds of marks on her back, like lashes.
Like lashes. What does that even mean? Whipped.
It's a disturbing description. When the Iowa County Sheriff's deputies arrived, they confirmed Melody was face down, arms at her sides. And she did have lacerations on her back.
Okay, so the medical examiner gets involved.
Yeah.
What did they determine?
Cause of death was strangulation. But there was more, much more. Numerous stab and slash wounds.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And the ME determined many of those wounds were inflicted after she was already dead, post-mortem.
That's brutal. Why?
It suggests a level of rage, or maybe something else. Something ritualistic, or an attempt to obscure the real cause of death, perhaps. Hard to say definitively.
Were there other injuries?
Yes. Marks on her hands and wrists indicating she'd been bound, though no ropes or tape or anything were found at the scene with her.
So she was bound at some point, but not when she was found. And her clothes.
Disarranged, but the report specifically noted no signs of sexual assault.
Okay, so strangulation, stabbing, binding, but found partially clothed with marks like lashes. This scene sounds confusing.
That's exactly what investigators thought. They quickly came to the conclusion that the scene at Lily Lake was staged.
Staged? You mean deliberately made to look like something it wasn't?
Precisely. They believed it was set up to look like a sexually motivated attack, perhaps to throw them off the real scent.
And how did they figure that out?
The area immediately around Melody's body was relatively undisturbed. No signs of a struggle right there. That suggested the murder itself, the strangulation and the binding, happened somewhere else.
Somewhere else. Like Morgan Creek Park, maybe, where her heart rate spiked on her watch.
That became the prime theory, yes, that Morgan Creek Park was the primary crime scene and Lily Lake was just the disposal site staged to mislead.
Let's back up a bit. Tell us more about Melody. Who was she really?
Well, she was born in Cedar Rapids, December 2003, went to Liberty High School. She did try college for a bit, Kirkwood Community College, wanted to go in something medical, caring for people.
But college didn't work out.
No, she struggled with the academics and ended up leaving.
And there was something else, wasn't there? Something about her cognitive abilities.
Yes, and this is a really important context. Melody had a mild intellectual disability. Reports estimated her mental capacity was more like that of a 12 to 14-year-old.
So that would impact her judgment, decision-making.
Absolutely. And it likely contributed to her very trusting nature, which sadly made her incredibly vulnerable. You have to see the events through that lens.
So while her friends might have been heading off to different futures, what was Melody passionate about?
Animals. She absolutely adored animals. She volunteered a lot at the Lynn County Animal Shelter.
That fits the caring profile.
Totally. People described her as just extremely loving, very caring, a real extrovert, knew no strangers, apparently had no fear, and just loved everyone unconditionally.
It makes what happened even more heartbreaking, knowing how trusting and open she was.
It really does. And remember, she told her mom she was just going out with friends that night. There was even a Snapchat video she sent earlier, singing happily in the back of a car, seemingly completely unaware of any danger. Just happy.
The community must have been devastated.
Completely. They held a vigil in Moran remembering her, and her mom, Megan, despite her grief, was incredibly helpful to investigators, sharing all the phone data, location info.
Yeah, that data was key, wasn't it? The Apple Watch especially.
Hugely important. It showed her heart rate spiking at Morgan Creek Park, then stopping, or at least the watch stopping recording. That pointed investigators strongly towards that park being the actual murder location.
And the phone data tracked the movement after that point.
Yes. It showed the phone moving from the park area back towards Moran, near her home, then out towards Lily Lake. It created a timeline.
Okay, so the investigation has a likely location, a timeline. Who did they start looking at?
The first person of interest, quite quickly, was her ex-boyfriend, McKinley Lisma, known as Ken. He was 20, same age as Melody.
The one she dated just before this happened.
That's him. They dated for about 2 months, broke up in December 2023, so just a couple of months before her death.
Was it a bad breakup?
It seems so. He was her first real boyfriend, so she was reportedly quite heartbroken. And things apparently turned sour when Melody found out he was getting back together with his ex-girlfriend, Nakia.
And Nakia was pregnant.
Yes, that was a major factor. Nakia was pregnant, and McKinley was reconciling with her.
So jealousy, messy breakup, Standard stuff, unfortunately.
But it escalated. There were apparently heated Facebook messages. Melody even threatened to call the police on him at one point.
Okay, so definitely some bad blood there.
And then there's that huge discovery from the autopsy.
Right, you mentioned Melody was pregnant.
Yes, pregnancy hormones were found. It was a secret. Even her mother didn't know.
Wow. Okay, that adds a whole new, potentially explosive layer to the motive question, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And there was also that threatening text Melody got right after McKinley picked up his stuff.
The one from the unknown number.
Yeah. It said, I hate you and your family ain't safe. Megan suspected right away it was McKinley.
So, when Megan first contacted McKinley after that emergency alert from the phone, what did he say?
He flat out denied everything. Said he hadn't seen Melody, hadn't heard from her. He even specifically said he was respecting Megan's rules about not seeing Melody without permission.
Playing the good guy.
Trying to. But his story started falling apart almost immediately when detectives got involved.
How so?
He repeated his denial to them, said the breakup was final back in December, hadn't seen her Friday or Saturday. But they had evidence.
The traffic cameras.
Exactly. Traffic cams clearly showed his blue Honda Accord in Moran around 11:20 p.m. that Saturday, the 17th, picking Melody up.
Caught red-handed, basically.
Pretty much. And the cameras tracked the car's movements afterwards. To Morgan Creek Park, then back towards Moran near her home in that apartment complex, and later heading towards Amana, towards Lily Lake.
So the car's movements matched the phone's earlier track.
Perfectly. And his own cell phone data backed it all up too. The pings matched the camera sightings.
Any other digital footprints?
Yep. His phone data also showed a final stop at a Quick Star gas station in Cedar Rapids. Security footage confirmed it was him and someone else buying cigars before he went home. His whole alibi was just gone.
So while he's sticking to his story in the interview room, they're searching his car.
That's right, executing a search warrant on the Honda Accord. And he's in there apparently insisting he's innocent for about an hour.
Did he offer any explanation for the breakup?
He admitted the breakup happened late December. He actually said it was good for me, but she didn't take it very well.
Why, good for him.
Because, he claimed, he needed to focus on the baby his ex-girlfriend Nakia was having. Said he broke up with Melody over the phone, still denied seeing her that weekend.
Okay, but the investigators know he's lying about seeing her. Did they confront him?
They started pressing him on inconsistencies, specifically a Walmart trip he mentioned. That's when he cracked a little.
What did he admit?
He admitted buying a machete at Walmart.
A machete? What was his reason?
He claimed it was for a camping trip. A trip that conveniently never actually happened. His explanation for needing a machete for camping was just protection. Pretty weak.
Yeah, that sounds flimsy. So they have him admitting to buying a weapon around the time of the murder.
And they tell him point blank that his story doesn't match the facts they have. The interview shifts. It's not if he was involved anymore, it's why.
How did he react to that pressure?
That's when the results from the car search probably started coming in, because the evidence they found was overwhelming.
Okay, what did they find in the trunk?
Inside a big plastic trash bag, they found a pink shirt stained with blood. Black leggings, also bloody, both known to be Melody's clothes.
Oh, wow.
An Apple Watch band, again with blood. Multiple pairs of gloves later linked to a Walmart receipt found in the car showing he bought more machetes, 2 more.
2 more machetes. And gloves.
Yeah. Also in the bag, duct tape with Melody's hair stuck to it, her phone case, and a piece of paracord, which investigators believed was the strangulation weapon.
Just a bag full of horror. Was that it?
Not quite. In the main part of the car, that first machete he admitted buying, the handle was visible right next to the driver's seat, near the center console.
Easily accessible.
Very. And they found the packaging for the other 2 machetes he'd bought. Plus, a serrated pocket knife and a partially used roll of duct tape in the front compartment.
So weapons, bindings, her bloody clothes. It's damning.
Absolutely damning. The investigator basically told McKinley, look, we have all this stuff. Your story makes no sense. Give him one last chance to come clean.
And what did McKinley do?
He abruptly asked to leave, just shut down and wanted out of the interview.
But he didn't just leave it there, did he? He came up with a new story later.
He did, a completely different story. Now, suddenly, it wasn't him. It was all this new friend named Dakota. Dakota Ben Patton.
Some woman Melody knew?
No. According to McKinley, Melody had never even met Dakota.
Okay, so what was Dakota's supposed role in this new version?
McKinley claimed Dakota just sort of tagged along that night. and that Dakota got the idea Melody must have money because she mentioned wanting to buy McKinley gifts, like a PlayStation 5.
So, robbery motive now.
Yeah.
Pulled out of thin air.
Seems like it. McKinley then claimed Dakota pulled a gun on him, McKinley, and forced him to tie Melody up with duct tape. Said Dakota was talking about ransom initially.
Forced him at gunpoint.
That was the claim. McKinley said he hesitated, but Dakota threatened him.
This sounds convenient.
Extremely. He continued, saying Dakota got in the back seat, hit Melody, and took her phone when she mentioned her mom could track her.
Explaining the phone being taken.
Right. And McKinley added this detail. He claimed he was the one who turned off one location setting, but deliberately left another one on, hoping to give Megan a clue.
Seriously. He tried to make himself look like a hero in his own fabricated story.
Apparently so. He also blamed Dakota for the Snapchat messages, saying Dakota took the phone and was impersonating Melody, texting her mom.
So in this version, McKinley is just a terrified hostage, basically.
That's the picture he painted. And when they got to Lily Lake, he claimed he just waited in the car while Dakota took Melody off somewhere. Said he couldn't see what happened, couldn't stop it.
Just waited in the car while his girlfriend was presumably murdered nearby.
That was his story. He claimed he eventually fell asleep and had nightmares.
Investigators must have bought that, right? Just kidding. They surely saw through that.
Oh, completely. Highly skeptical doesn't even begin to cover it. The obvious question. If you were forced at gunpoint to participate in a kidnapping that ended in murder, wouldn't you go straight to the police the first chance you got?
Yeah, exactly. His fell asleep excuse is ridiculous.
Totally unbelievable. But then came the forensic results from the weapons.
Okay, the machetes, the knife. What did they show?
DNA and fingerprints came back with hits for Dakota Van Patten.
So Dakota was involved.
Looks like it. But here's the twist. No DNA or prints from McKinley Lisma were found on those weapons.
None. So does that actually support McKinley's story that Dakota did everything?
It might have raised some doubts, certainly. Except there was other evidence tying McKinley directly to the planning.
What was that?
More surveillance footage, this time from Walmart, showing the purchase of the weapons.
The machetes and gloves. Who was on the video?
McKinley Lisma, Dakota Van Patten, and a third person, an 18-year-old named Logan Kimpton.
A third person, Logan Kimpton.
Yup. The footage showed all three of them together, buying 3 machetes and multiple pairs of gloves just before the murder.
So it wasn't just McKinley and Dakota. It was a trio, seemingly planning something together.
That's what it looked like. And Logan Kimpton eventually talked to investigators.
What did Logan say?
He admitted it, said all 3 of them had planned to murder Melody.
Whoa. Just admitted it.
Yeah, but he claimed he chickened out at the last minute. Said he wasn't actually there for the murder itself.
Did he have an alibi?
His cell phone data seemed to back that part up, placing him at his girlfriend's apartment during the time the murder likely occurred.
But he was still involved in the planning. So he got charged too.
Yes, charged with willful injury and conspiracy. Because planning a murder, even if you back out, is still a serious crime.
Okay, so we have McKinley, Dakota, and Logan. McKinley and Dakota are charged with murder. They plead not guilty.
Both pleaded not guilty. McKinley then did something interesting. He invoked his right to a speedy trial.
Which means his trial happened relatively quickly.
Yes, it started in November 2024.
What was the prosecution's main argument at trial?
They laid out the sheer brutality, emphasized the depravity of the attack at Morgan Creek Park, how Melody was treated inhumanely, the trauma she suffered, and they stressed the senselessness of it, arguing the staging at Lily Lake was just a failed cover-up.
And McKinley's defense, still sticking to the "I was there but didn't do it" line.
Pretty much. Acknowledged he was present, but denied participating in the actual killing, blaming Dakota.
Did the prosecution offer a clearer motive at trial, beyond the messy breakup?
They leaned heavily into the pregnancy angle.
Melody's pregnancy.
Yes. Their theory was that Melody likely told McKinley she was pregnant. Remember, he'd just gotten back with Nakia, who was also pregnant. Right. So the prosecution argued McKinley didn't want the responsibility or the complication of 2 pregnant girlfriends, potentially 2 babies. They suggested he recruited Dakota and Logan specifically to kill Melody and eliminate that problem.
Is there proof he knew she was pregnant?
That was the weak point. No direct evidence. Melody hadn't even told her own mother. So the defense argued maybe Melody didn't even know herself yet, or if she did, she hadn't told McKinley. It remains speculative.
What about Nakia? Did she testify?
She did. She testified about giving McKinley an ultimatum after she caught Melody calling his phone. Choose me or her.
And she said he chose her.
Yes, according to Nakia, he chose her and the baby she was carrying.
Did the defense challenge that?
They did, in a significant way.
Yeah.
They questioned whether McKinley was actually the father of Nakia's baby, Aaliyah.
Oh, was there doubt?
Nakia admitted on the stand that at the time of Melody's death, she wasn't 100% sure who the father was, but she believed it could be McKinley's. And crucially, McKinley also believed it was his baby at that time.
So his belief was the important part for the motive, regardless of the biological reality.
Exactly. It turned out later, through a DHS paternity test, that McKinley was not Aaliyah's father. But he didn't know that for sure back in February 2024. He thought he was about to be a father with Nakia.
Okay, that's complex. What other evidence came out at trial? Any witnesses linking McKinley directly?
The prosecution called several friends or acquaintances of the three accused who testified about hearing incriminating statements. But honestly, their testimony seemed a bit shaky under cross-examination.
How so?
Well, one friend, T. Meyer, initially said Dakota admitted killing that Melody girl with Ken. But later, she wasn't sure if Dakota actually implicated Ken or just said he did it. Memory got fuzzy.
Okay, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Another guy, Brendan Monson, testified he heard Logan talking about planning to murder someone with McKinley and Dakota while they were out mudding on the day of the murder.
That sounds damning.
It does, but Brendan also admitted he had memory problems and needed prompting to recall if Logan specifically named McKinley in that plan.
Not exactly rock solid.
And one more. Trevor Wise said McKinley asked him not to tell his mother he'd been hanging out with Dakota. But again, on cross-examination, Trevor wasn't totally sure if McKinley used those exact words. Memory issues seemed common.
So the witness testimony about confessions was maybe not the strongest part of the case.
Perhaps not the most reliable part, but the digital evidence. That was incredibly powerful and much harder to dispute.
What kind of digital evidence beyond the location tracking?
McKinley's own internet search history. On the Walmart website, just hours before picking Melody up, he was searching for things like face coverings, ski masks, and rubber gloves.
Wow, that looks like premeditation right there.
It certainly points that way. And even more incriminating, his map app searches from that same time frame. He specifically searched for directions to Morgan Creek Park and to Lily Lake.
He looked up directions to both the murder scene and the body dump site beforehand.
That's what the data showed. Very, very hard to explain away.
Were there photos too? You mentioned photos earlier.
Yes. Found on McKinley's phone, some were disturbing. Selfies of Dakota wearing Melody's glasses in someone's basement after the murder. Chillingly casual.
What else?
A photo of Dakota sitting in McKinley's passenger seat, apparently with a BB gun tucked into his waistband, maybe taken later to try and support the forced at gunpoint story.
Possibly. But there was one more photo, wasn't there? The worst one.
Yes, and the most damning photo of all. It was a picture of Melody. She had duct tape over her mouth, her nose was bloody, and you could see tears on her face.
Oh my God. He took a picture of her like that while she was bound and terrified.
It appears so. That photo is just devastating proof of her suffering and his involvement.
So with all that evidence, the planning, the digital trail, the photo, what was the prosecution's final pitch to the jury?
They tie it all together in the closing argument. His history with Melody, her wanting a future, his rejection, then the concrete evidence. Him and Dakota strangling her, stripping her, mutilating her body, leaving her like trash. They painted a picture of calculated, cold-blooded murder.
How long did the jury take?
Not long at all, really. They had a verdict by 2:30 p.m. on the final day of the trial.
And the verdict was?
Guilty on all charges. First-degree murder, first-degree kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit a forcible felony.
Justice for Melody in that sense. What about the sentencing? Did her mother speak?
She did. Megan Hoffman gave an incredibly powerful victim impact statement. She spoke directly to McKinley.
What did she say?
She reminded him about the rules she had set for him when he dated Melody, rules about respecting her vulnerability. She talked about his betrayal. She said, and this is intense, you with the wrong mama, you mess with the wrong family, just raw anger and pain.
Understandably so.
She also expressed this deep sadness, saying she was sorry he never felt like he fit into their loving family. And she made a point of noting that none of his own relatives were even there in court to support him.
Wow. That's a heavy observation. So, the sentence.
Mandatory life in prison without the possibility of parole. That's the required sentence for first-degree murder in Iowa.
So he'll never get out. What about the others, Dakota and Logan?
Their cases are still pending. Dakota Van Tatten's murder trial is scheduled for March 2025, and Logan Kimpton, the one who allegedly chickened out, his trial date got pushed to April 2025.
So more trials to come. It's just such a tragic, senseless case all around.
It truly is. A young life full of potential, brutally cut short. It's a stark reminder of the darkness that can hide behind seemingly ordinary facades. Thanks for going through this deep dive with us. Outro.
Yeah, this case really sticks with you. The contrast between Melody's incredibly trusting, open personality and the sheer calculated cruelty of what happened to her, it's deeply disturbing.
It absolutely is. And it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? Thinking about the digital trail left behind, the phone data, the searches, the photos. It raises a big question for all of us, really.
Which is?
How is this constant digital footprint changing how crimes are investigated and prosecuted? And what does that mean for justice, but also for our own privacy, you know?
That's a really important point to think about. For anyone listening who wants to explore some of the issues this case touches on, maybe look into resources about manipulative relationships or how communities even begin to heal after such violence.
Definitely. Thank you again for joining us for this difficult but important deep dive. We hope it gave you some things to reflect on, and feel free to share your own thoughts or questions about it.